Hey there, it is Friday. That means the weekend is about here, and this is Uneducated. We are all alone today. I guess that's just the way life is sometimes. Sometimes you're alone, sometimes you're with people, and today I'm all by myself. But I have not prepared and planned ahead. And so several weeks ago, maybe even a month ago now, I did a recording with Jim and Jan Stankiewicz, and we talked about marriage. So that's what you're going to be listening to today. Now, marriage is one of those things that, unless you put the time and the effort in, it just doesn't seem to work. And so April and I, over the years in our marriage, we've been to seminars and to counselors, and we've been in small groups of marriages, and we've read books like this book, Biblical Manhood and Womanhood. So we've read that. We've been through a group called I Marriage by Andy Stanley, which that wasn't a bad group, wasn't the best. We read books like this, When to Become, or When to Become One. Look at that, Enhancing Sexual Intimacy. I know I probably like that book more than April did, but that's just the way life goes. But marriage has a lot of different elements to it. And so today we're going to hear from two experts. And not experts because they have degrees behind their names, but experts because they've been doing this for a long time and they're making it work. Not just making it work, but they are satisfied and they are happy and they enjoy each other in their marriage relationship. So today is Friday. Remember that this is Uneducated, and if you're on YouTube and you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please click the subscribe button. It looks like that. So just go ahead and click the subscribe button, and when you do that, that'll help us, and then you can click the bell, and when you click the bell, what'll happen is whenever we give live video updates, whenever we do other kind of things, you'll get notified so that you can see our content. And then if you're on Facebook and you like the video, make sure you like and make sure you share, because we get our content out that way. And I think, without further ado, here are Jim and Jan Stankiewicz to give you some good marriage advice. All right, thanks for joining us. This is Uneducated, where you don't have to be educated in order to find truth. You just have to be sincere and be willing to work hard at looking in the right places. And one of those places that we look is the scriptures, the Bible itself. And so we're glad that you joined us today. We're going to be talking about something that's really important, at least as far as couples are concerned. We're going to be talking about marriage today. We're going to be talking about different aspects of marriage, and we're going to be talking about how you can have a marriage that is really strong in Christ, and a marriage that can really become complete and satisfying, even in a world where everything else is not that satisfying. And so I have special guests with me today, Jim and Jan Stankiewicz. And so Jim and Jan, I thank you for being with me today.
Hi, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
All right, so how was your guys' week? What's going on this week? Anything good?
Just been busy with work and trying to get through and staying away from the COVID and all that kind of stuff. I've been working mostly at home, going into work. Sometimes I work in Mentor. So, again, when we work there, we have to kind of keep our distance and, wear masks and everything. So, been a challenge and busy, but happy to have a job still, where a lot of people aren't as fortunate to, have been able to retain their jobs. So we've been blessed that way.
Right. And do you ever break the rules and get sent to the principal's office or anything like that, or no?
Not lately. I suppose way back when I probably did, but not lately. I try to stay out of trouble.
All right. Jan, how about you? How's your week going?
It's going well. I've had fun this week. I'm a quilter from way back, and I'm making my little 5-year-old granddaughter a quilt for her 5th birthday in a week. So that's keeping me busy.
Very good. Very good. Um, well, let me ask you guys a question here real quick, okay? Um, so we're talking about marriage today, and so I want to ask you guys, before you got married, how did you guys meet?
Well, that's kind of a funny story. We were both pretty young. I was just thinking back. I was probably about maybe 22, somewhere around in there, and Jan was probably about 20,
20.
maybe.
Yep.
And I think it was kind of fate because we both went out. You know, she was with a group of friends, I was with a group of friends, and we went to this club that you didn't have to be a member to go there, so anybody could go to this club. And so we both went there, and um, I kind of saw Jan dancing on the floor with her friends, and I asked her to dance, and that's kind of how we met, I guess. Is we liked dancing together, and we started talking a little bit and getting to know each other, and that's really how we started out. It was kind of weird because that was the first time both of us had gone to this club, and actually the last time, so it was
Yeah.
kind of like fate. If we hadn't been there that night, we probably would have never met each other. So
Yeah, that's true. We were both in college. I was finishing up a program for dental assisting and anxious to get that underway. And I really wasn't interested in dating. And maybe that's a little secret to those that are looking. When you're not looking to meet somebody, I think that's when it all kind of clicks together. I don't know, Jim was kind of in the same place. He wasn't really interested, I don't think, at that time in dating exactly, but we just enjoyed each other's company right out of the gate.
Hmm. So, so you start dating, you meet each other, and when when did you decide? Okay, it's time that we're gonna do this for real and forever, and were both you on the same page with that? Did one have to convince the other one? How did that all work?
that was another kind of funny story. Is I think after we met, we went out maybe once or twice after that, and
Hmm.
then all of a sudden Jan had some kind of busy schedule, and I
Yeah.
just couldn't get a hold of her. I'd call. Back then obviously there weren't any cell phones. I was back in probably 1976, around in there. And so I'd call. I'd usually end up talking to her mom, and her mom would say, "Well, she's not home now," and probably went on for
That one for a while.
maybe 2, 3 months because I just couldn't get a hold of her, and then finally did, and started dating again. And the more we dated, the more we got to know each other, and I guess fell in love with each other too. And so we just, things just moved from there. And I don't know. We didn't know each other real long, maybe a year and a half, and
Mhm.
we ended up getting engaged. And of course, she met my friends. We had a few parties, and everybody liked Jan, and
Yeah.
which was a nice thing too, obviously. So
And we kind of came from totally different worlds. I mean, as far as little Erie, Pennsylvania is concerned, we lived on different sides of the city. We went to different schools, but I don't know. We just kind of, what we saw in each other, I think, is what we had been looking for in people that we hadn't found before that. And again, like Jim said, that was before any kind of Match.com or anything like that. So it was difficult to meet people. You either met them at school or you met them, you know, doing the club thing, which was big back home. So that, was going out, meeting your friends, and hopefully meet nice people.
Yeah. So Jan, when you did first meet Jim, you did think right off the bat this is a nice guy?
I kind of liked his friend better now. No, they were a couple years older than I was, and I had kind of been in a serious relationship that kind of went south, and I really was a little burned and didn't really want to get into it with anybody at that point. And I think Jim, being older, was a little more settled, and I think he was maybe a little more serious about things. So I think that's why we kind of dated for a while, and then I just got to realizing, this is the real deal. There's nothing else out there that I'm more interested in, and he's just got checked all the boxes. So
I think that's true with me too. Like Jan said, checked all the boxes. I mean, Jan was pretty, she was smart, and I mean, I've dated other girls that just
watch it.
like the title of your program here, Uneducated or whatever. But I don't know, Jan, she just clicked, everything kind of went together, and I said, I'm ready. She's definitely seems like the one, and everything, all the pieces fell together, I guess.
And Jim was a lot of fun. He was just a lot of fun, always horsing around, kidding around. And that was such a refreshing thing for me. Kind of made me think of my brothers a little bit. And so I was one of 6 kids. Jim was an only child. So we couldn't have been more different from our backgrounds. But I don't know, something about it. He was kind of enjoying the big family thing, being part of big holiday get-togethers. And I don't know, he just kind of fit in. Everybody liked him. My parents loved him. And yeah, it was nice right out of the gate. We really had no issues at that point. So that was good.
Awesome. So here's the thing. We're talking about marriage today, and there's a lot of couples out there, whether they are in the dating stage or whether they're already married, or maybe they're in their second marriage or third marriage, or who knows, fifth marriage, whatever it is. But, we all know that marriage is not easy. And one of the things that I do before I even marry someone, I make them walk through an application. I make them walk through counseling time. I make them understand how serious marriage is, because I believe it is forever, that the scriptures are clear that marriage is a forever thing, and that you got to make sure that you're serious about this. And if you're not willing to work on your marriage before you get married, then you're probably not going to be willing to work on it after you're married. So let me ask you this question. So you guys are kind of in this new stage. You're dating, everything. Jim's really a lot of fun. He's a really cool guy. He's good looking. And so Jan's all into this, and Jim's into Jan, and she's really pretty. And you guys are going along, and then you decide, here's the big day. You get married, and now you're together. It's just the two of you, and this is forever. Where and when and what did the first bump look like in your guys' marriage?
Well, I think for me, my dad was one of those people that when he did something, he was a perfectionist. And so I didn't see that in Jim at that stage of the game. And so I for instance, like when it would be time to buy a car or get our first place to live, I might have had more lofty ideas of what we could afford. And when we talked about it, he was much more, I don't know if I want to say easily satisfied, but it wasn't his forever thing. And so he wasn't all that into it, where I was like, oh, we should, spend more money and make it more comfortable for us right then and there. And I had to learn, and I think that was maturing on my part, that, things aren't always, when you first start off, the way you're going to end up eventually. And that can really eat at you if you get into that, that monster in your head where you think you have to have everything your parents have, because it just isn't real. That's just an artificial, phony culture thing that we all can fall prey to. So I had to kind of dial it back a little in my own understanding of where our marriage was going, particularly when it came to our first Thanksgiving. We were married in September, and my first Thanksgiving was having Jim's elderly mom and dad over. And I figured, I'll just, I'll forgo my family this year. We can do that every other year kind of thing. And I remember working, I was full-time working, and I made this big dinner, and they came at noon. And by 20 after 12, everyone was done eating and off to the couch to watch football. And I was in the kitchen thinking, what have I done? And I was used to, 50 people and throwing footballs and hanging around with the family and talking and having that, second Thanksgiving dinner and candles and the whole thing. And it just wasn't that expectation. So for me, I think I had to really grow up and say, wait a minute, the way I grew up wasn't the way Jim grew up. and that's okay. We're different, and we can figure out a way that we can make it work.
Yeah, yeah. Jim, is that
I
about
think,
right?
yep, that's right. It's right on, actually. Yeah. And Jan's right too. I did, I just had my mom and dad, so I wasn't used. She had, 5 brothers and sisters, and I did enjoy that. We'd all get together and there'd be a big party atmosphere, and I really enjoyed that. But I think my first bump in the road, I guess, and this really probably was a little bit before we even got married, is, I was raised Catholic. Jan was raised Lutheran. And so obviously the Catholic Church, they want you to raise your children Catholic. And so that was kind of a problem. But just like you said, you counsel people before they get married. Well, they had a counseling session. It wasn't one-on-one. It was like a large group of people that were planning on getting married. And I think we went for like a month, and it was like 4 classes, an hour or 2 each night or something, or it was on a Saturday morning. I don't remember. And so they did teach you the different things, you might run into, which was good counseling. And, but, so that was a problem, because obviously they're pulling us to raise our kids. We had kids. We didn't plan on having kids right away, so we didn't have to worry about it. But we ended up talking to the Lutheran pastor, and he said, well, when do you plan on having kids? And we were still pretty young, and we said, not right away. And he said, well, why don't worry about it right now. Maybe it'll work its way out. And then over the next 3-4 years, I was going to Jan's church, or Lutheran church, and I liked it. I became a Lutheran, and we ended up raising our kids Lutheran. So, there's problems, I guess, you think are really, catastrophic or whatever it could be. And, things don't get worked out right away sometimes. You got to let them work their own way out and investigate and find out what the best way of, doing it. So that was probably at least my first bump in the road, I guess.
Gotcha. So Jan, was it really important that Jim come to the Lutheran church with you, or was that more of a sticking point than maybe Jim? Because the way Jim kind of described it is he just kind of moved in that direction with you. So would that have been a really hard thing for you, Jan, if he would have said no to that, or if he would have gone a different direction?
Well, I think my sense was when we got married that would be the natural progression, because we had attended our church. We had a priest at our wedding. At that time, that was kind of a new thing. And the younger priests were much more relaxed about that. The older priests, not so much. But in our experience, the churches that we attended weren't that much different from each other. But the tradition of our church that I attended and had my whole life, I think I was much more in the tradition of the Lutheran church than Jim was in the tradition of the Catholic church. Even though he went to Catholic schools, I don't think he was a real big attender at that point in time. So it was just kind of the natural progression for us. We were fortunate. It didn't become a deal breaker, but I think I probably would have dug my heels in a little hard to go that way, since that had been how I was raised. But then as the years progressed, we kind of grew in our faith together and found that some of these structured churches just weren't kind of where we were, as much as I think I can speak for Jim. We're Christians first. We're not a label by some definition of a church. And I'm very comfortable with that. I think we're all seeking the Lord, and we want a Bible-based church, and that was the main thing we were looking for.
Yeah. If I could throw a little more 2 cents in, Brian, I think it's sad when married couples, maybe, like the wife goes to church and the husband maybe has a different religion, and they both go to their own churches separately, or maybe the husband might not even go to church, and then the wife takes, goes herself with her children. And I just think that's kind of sad. You're kind of missing out, the togetherness and learning together. And I realize that's the way people do things, but it's better if you're both on the same page and you both like the same things, as far as especially church goes, and you have a good church.
And we kind of, yeah, we attended church regularly right after from when we got, engaged on. We went to church our entire marriage. So church was very important to us. It was a big part of our lives, raising our kids. And like Jim said, we thought a united front was the most important, that we were together on that issue. So that, I think, was good for us.
Okay, so let's run down that vein just a little bit real quick before we move on to the next thought, and that's this. What would be your suggestion then to a couple that's together and they know that God and a certain religion, for instance Christianity, they know that that's important. They know that their church life is a really important part of their life, and they're dating somebody who, say, doesn't go to church, or somebody who goes to a different denomination or a different faith altogether. What would you suggest? Because I think most people think that it'll work itself out, or it'll be okay, or you know what, it's not that big a deal. We love each other, so we're just going to do this and hope that it all works out. And then they find themselves in a really bad place sometimes. How important is it that two people that are getting married, that they agree or at least have this same direction when it comes to their faith?
Well, personally, I think that's paramount in the conversations you have when you're dating and when you're making a serious commitment with another person, is how important is their faith to them. And for me, I kind of go back to that scripture of being evenly yoked with the person that you marry. If you're not, you're just going to be running opposition. That was at least how I felt as a young person. I didn't want to be the woman in church by myself and my husband was at home, drinking beer, having watching a football game. That wasn't going to fly with me. So, I mean, I was in those days, I was probably much more emphatic about what I wanted and what I thought was important and what I needed. And I mean, I made my needs known, because if you don't discuss that, I mean, the same is true with money, and we'll probably get into that. You have to have basic understanding with this person that you're going to spend your life with. You've got to have those fundamental things on an even yoking, or it's going to be problematic. No question about it. So for me, that was very important, that Jim believed in God, that he wanted to grow his faith, if that was important to him, and that church was important to him. Not church for church's sake, but that he wanted to be, a good person. And you get to be a good person by getting in the Word of God, and that was part of our life from the get-go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I guess that's really what it boils down to, too. And I was thinking, you need to date each other a long time to get to know each other before you get married. But, if you're both, polar opposites as far as religion goes, that could be a serious problem. And, maybe you don't want to even go into that relationship that deeply. It's hard to do. I mean, we all find someone we really care for, and, next thing you know, it's, you are thinking about getting married or something like that. But I think it's like Jan said, it's really important, obviously, if you're both on the same page and you're both Christians and you both believe in the same faith. And, because if you do have children, you got to decide how you're going to raise those children, and you want to raise them together, not separately and have different opinions on everything. Or,
right.
That's going to create a lot of stress in your relationship too.
Right. Definitely. Well, I know there's a lot of young couples that I see, and I know, and I work with some of them from time to time, and I see that stress that is really hard in the marriage. A husband that doesn't believe, and a wife that does believe, and so then they're separated on that, and it can be really difficult. So what I hear you saying is that dating should not just be all about the fuzzy feeling and boy, she's really pretty, and man, she just makes me feel a certain way, or he makes me feel a certain way inside. But you really need to communicate and talk and really almost be investigative in some sense to make sure this relationship is actually going to be something that's going to be satisfying to both of you when if and when you do make this a serious relationship. And it sounds like maybe you're saying you should talk about these things before it even gets serious. Is that right? Or
It really does. I think, I mean, again, you go from what your experience is, but for me, when you meet somebody, you need to go into that relationship, maybe not with stars in your eyes, but with some checkpoints. Like, what is it I want from this person? I want somebody that I can talk to, that I can have fun with. But I also want to have somebody who has the same idea about money. Like, to us, it was really important to save, and we were both savers. Jim better than I was, because he was kind of an only child and had been, I think, more self-directed. I was kind of a younger sibling of a bunch of kids and grew up in kind of chaos. But at the same time, we both liked the same things. We liked the stability of a home. We liked the idea of me being home with the kids when they were little. We had conversations about that, and we didn't want to go into marriage with a lot of debt. So when we got married, we were pretty solvent and had both had some savings already started. And we didn't get married with a bunch of college debt. We didn't get married with, an extravagant wedding that we couldn't afford. We had a very modest wedding. But, I think that the thing that bothers me, and I feel so bad for young girls, especially today, I think they look at marriage as this end-all, be-all, the wedding. And frankly, it's a day in your life, and it should not be the best day of your life. For me, the best day of my life have been many subsequent days. Your first child and seeing your kid graduate and the dance recitals and family vacations. Those are the best days of your life. Your wedding day is a day that is to prepare you, and that you're not stressed out right out of the gate with something that you can't afford, and setting yourself up for failure as a person. Is this person going to meet your needs? Am I going to meet their needs? Are we willing to give of ourselves to this other person to have a good thing in the long run? And just like in the Bible, it says God will bring, even from a bad thing, he'll bring good from it. Even relationships that might be rocky, if you invest yourself into that marriage, God will honor that and bring you to a good place. But you have to be on the same page of those things. It's very important. And for me, on that wedding day, it was a very serious, to me, it was a very serious day. Serious because, like you suggested, Brian, you're giving yourself to another person. This isn't just all, a little girl's pipe dream of a fancy party and dressed up. It's about giving yourself and changing to becoming a single person to a married person. And everybody gets married hoping it's going to be forever. And unfortunately, that doesn't always happen. But that day you're getting married, both people should be 100% in and hoping it's going to be forever. In my view, in order for it to work, because you'll have days where it's not fun, and you've got sick kids, and sleepless nights, and jobs lost, and parents passing away. There's a lot of crises that married people go through, just to name a few. And you've got to be 100% committed.
Right. And talking about good things you like about the other person, I think we both have these traits. Really, we're both reliable. Like Jan just said, as things happen and serious things in your life, you want to be able to call on your spouse and have them there when you need them, and somebody to talk to and converse with, and get you through these hard times together. Or if you say you're going to do something, that you actually do that, and you follow up, and you're there to help each other, really.
Right. Okay, so go ahead, Jan.
No, I was just going to say, to follow up what Jim said. I mentioned we had a Thanksgiving dinner for Jim's mom and dad a year after the first 3 months of our marriage, and Jim's mom died the following year, very unexpectedly. And so, as a 23-year-old young married guy, or 25, whatever we were, we had to deal with losing his mom and no brothers to share that with. And it was so profound. We had no preparation for that, but we had each other. luckily we didn't have little kids. We had to sell a house and help his father and do all kinds of things. And his dad had some issues that we had to deal with as a couple, which really made us grow and stretch ourselves. But looking back, we see God was with us every step of the way, every step of the way.
Yeah.
And we're so grateful that we knew to seek God in those times.
All right, let me ask you this, because marriage is not just two people deciding they're going to live together or shack up together. And so today in our culture, a lot of people are just deciding to live together. So from scriptural standpoint and from your view, can you just tell everyone what you see, like what constitutes marriage? What is your view of marriage? What does it entail? So if you were just to kind of sum it up maybe in a sentence or two, what does marriage look like? And when people are thinking about marriage, young people are thinking about marriage, how should they be thinking about it?
I mean, I don't know if this is exactly right or not, but it's really like a legal contract. You know, you're bound to each other too, where if you just decide to, you know, live together, you might have some serious problems down the road too, in that, you know, people decide, well, I'm going to buy a house together, and then something goes. It's very easy to get out of it too. You know, if you're not married, well, we have a little fight, we're going to break up, we're going to move on. Sometimes there's children involved too. People, you know, don't get married even after they have children. So it's really a serious thing. You know, it's really legal, binding, and it's, you know, showing that you love each other and you're really committed to each other.
I think for me too, when, like Jim was just saying, you take those vows, you're saying before God and the world and your friends and family that you are making a contract, a legal, honorary, moral contract that is calling you to the carpet, that you have to hold your end up of it, of that binding agreement. And it's not easily put back. And I think that's the thing. I almost think, as I'm looking at the world today, it's too easy to get out of anything. People don't honor what they say. They change their mind. They back out. It's not that important. And I think we have to get to the basics, that, you know, your word is your bond. You say something, you've got to honor that. Because, I mean, the God of the universe has sanctioned this and has brought you together. And then when you have children, you're bound to those kids, and you're bound to your spouse. And there are times that get really hard. There's no doubt about it. It's not all roses, but I guess at the end of the day, the question is, would you want to be by yourself, or would you want to be with this person and go through the rough times together? And it makes for a commitment. And I think there's a right order of doing things. You know, we can try to do things our way, or we can do things God's way. And I've found in my life, when I try to do things my way, it's never as good as when I try to do things God's way. It's never as honoring or important and well done.
I would agree with that. So what do you say to the person, though, that's in a marriage and they're not happy, and they say, you know what, I'm not going to be like my mom and dad or like my grandma and grandpa who just stayed in the marriage just because. I'm not going to be unhappy for the rest of my life just because. And so they feel like their happiness is more important than their commitment that they made to this person and these vows that they took. How would you talk to somebody about that? How would you deal with that if someone just came and said, you know what, I'm not staying in this because I'm unhappy?
I mean, obviously, some marriages, you know, if there's violence involved or drugs involved or there's something really serious, you know, maybe that marriage isn't going to stay together. But, you know, if you're just unhappy, why are you unhappy? Maybe you need to go to counseling. Maybe you need to, you know, talk to some friends or pastor, or, you know, life isn't a bunch of roses either. You know, like Jan said, there's going to be bumps in the road, and you're not going to be happy all the time. You got to talk to each other. And, that's one of the things, I regret a little bit. Sometimes Jan and I, it seems like the longer we're married, like when you have kids, it complicates things, I think, too. And sometimes you have battles over the kids, or maybe what somebody said to the kids or didn't say. But it seems as we go along now, we get along better, I guess. But I can remember having some real battles that we'd kind of give each other. Maybe it was more me, I don't know. I'd give Jan the silent treatment. We wouldn't talk for 2-3 days or something like that. And that's not the way to handle, having a fight together. You gotta. And I remember Jan many times. She would say, "Okay, I forget what you call this, but it's like conversation time. You sit on the couch, I'm sitting on the couch. We're going to talk this thing out, like it or not. We're going to, get to the bottom of it and, figure out what we're doing wrong and how we can improve, because by not talking to each other and letting things stew, it's not going to help. And that's probably what people do. They just keep going on and on, letting it linger. And, then it really gets out of hand after a while, or maybe they start doing some really stupid things, like maybe seeing somebody else, going on with somebody else or whatever, and then it's very difficult to keep the relationship going.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember our first year of marriage. We had no family around us. We had moved to Florida, so we were like 1,000 miles away, which I say was a great thing for us because we had to depend on each other. But I remember probably six months into our marriage, I remember us sitting on the bed, on the edge of the bed in our little one-bedroom apartment, and we had an argument. And I just remember saying to April, I said, unless we go talk to somebody and get help, we're not going to make it. Because, we were just arguing and there was just a lot of stuff. So we did. We found a good Christian counselor, which that was important to us. Some people may not feel that it's that important, but I felt it was really important. So we found a good Christian lady, and she sat down and she began to help us to learn how to better communicate with one another. Now, here's the interesting thing. We are now 23 years, we'll be 23 years married here coming this May, and we are still learning how to communicate with one another. And so it's a lifelong commitment, right?
And you want it to be. You want your spouse or the person that you love to grow and change. You don't want them to be in a little box of the person that you married 43 years ago. I mean, we need to give each other room to grow. We need to give each other the confidence to try new things. When we moved up here, that was a big change for us. We had been married and grew up in our hometown, married in local churches, gone to the schools our kids went to, and all that kind of stuff. But moving up here was an opportunity for me, I think, that God gave us to stretch ourselves. We were kind of empty nesting, and it just felt like God was moving us to the next level. And that brought a whole bunch of new changes and challenges to our marriage. But I think all those things, it's like a choice in life. You either look at things to make a situation better or to grow in, or you can be clamoring and to hold somebody back or to hang on tightly. And what you end up doing is pushing them away. And I do think we need to be the best people we can be. If we're working hard on making ourselves the best we can be and allowing the other person to grow, as long as they're willing to, come halfway, you're right. It's a process of change and of growing your whole marriage. And it's exciting. It's more fun today than it was, I think, when we first met, because we know each other on a deeper level. And it's just nice. And when you look back and you see what you've accomplished together as a couple, that's really nice too.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Brian.
Yeah.
Can you put your picture back up there? I have a question. I have a question for you now.
No, I didn't know this was going to happen.
Jan and I, we're kind of like, we're different, let's say. Like I like sports and stuff. Jan was more like the reader, stay in the house kind of thing, where I was out playing ball, things like that. So I was thinking to myself, is it better to marry somebody that's exactly like you? Like, say you're an engineer, and then you meet somebody at work and you marry another engineer, would that get boring, just having so much in common, or would that be a good thing? Or with Jan and I think it's been a good thing for us because you learn from each other that way. You're not exactly the same. You learn things that you would have never thought of yourself. So I don't know. So I don't know if you want to answer that, what you think or not, but
You're putting them on the spot.
Well, you two are the experts, but I would say that I think it is a good thing. I think it is kind of true that opposites do attract, but they don't just attract, but they help. It's kind of like the whole oyster thing, right? So the grain of sand, or the sand that gets in there and rubs and rubs and rubs until it creates this pearl. I think those are kind of good things if two people are willing to work, with each other, that we literally can help shape each other and, transform each other. But one of the things was interesting, April and I, we were both athletic when we were younger. And so, but when we got together, we really don't spend time like watching sports. We did play some pickup volleyball together, and we do enjoy, physical activity and stuff. The only difference is she likes activity that's play activity. So she likes to go play volleyball or play football. And instead, I like to grab some weights and actually lift or exercise. And she gets totally bored out of her mind exercising. So we have to decide, what we're going to do. And usually what we do for exercise then is we go out with the boys and we play baseball or we play football or, whatever it is. And so that's how we get our exercise. So I've learned to kind of work out on my own, but now Brian's starting to work out with me. And Nathan's starting to work out. So I have some workout partners now. But when we do it as a family or whatever, it's so much more fun because, I'm into that too. So it's good.
Yeah.
Well, here, let me. Now that you kind of threw me off there, Jim, asking me a question, and I don't think I answered that well at all. So I think if you can find somebody that likes some of the things you like, I guess that's a good thing. But I don't think you want to.
Here's one of the reasons I asked that question. Like Jan said, when we met, there were no computer match and things like that, and I've never used an internet website or anything, being married as long as we have.
Right.
But I would think you can go on a website now and you can try to find people with identical likes that you have, and is that a good thing, really? I suppose you want to have similar interests, but I don't know if that's good or bad, I guess, because...
Well, here's the thing too, Jim. If you start to think about this, like for instance, if I'm into mountain climbing and I'm mountain climbing all the time, I'm probably going to find people, and I'm probably going to be hanging around people that enjoy mountain climbing. And so I may very well find my future spouse mountain climbing. Or say, for instance, I like, hanging out in a bar, getting drunk all the time. I may find my future, spouse in a bar, getting drunk with me. So those kind of things can be possible. But I don't know. Do you guys think the match thing really works? Like the whole computer match thing? Do you know anybody that's done that and it's really worked out well?
I know what I'm going by is I used to listen to Dr. Dobson years and years ago. He had this focus on the family thing. And I remember he said once a couple things that really stayed with me. The one was women, especially who have emotional needs, should not expect their husband to meet every emotional need that they have. That's why we have friends. That's why we have, girlfriends and sisters and family and fellowship with our church friends. That was invaluable to me, because if we look to our spouses to meet all our emotional needs, we may end up coming up short and expecting more of them than they can give us. But the other thing, to your point, Brian, I think was really good that I imparted from Dr. Dobson was, God doesn't always give us the person we want, but he gives us the person we need in our marriage to grow and become the person that God wants us to become. That puts us into a whole nother level, because if marriage is just, palling around and having a great time, that's one thing. But if we want to grow into the people God wants us to become, that's a whole nother situation. And that is a push me, pull you. There's times in your marriage and in your relationships that aren't comfortable and aren't easy. But if you see that through, if you come to the other side of it, if you work through it, you're a better person for the effort. At least that's how I have come to believe. And the people that I know that have married a long time, it's a respect, and it's wanting the best for the other person as much as for yourself and as for your relationship, kind of thing. So to me, there's more at play than just compatibility. It's, what can this person, what can I bring to their life, and what can they bring to mine?
Yeah. Amen.
What do you think? Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Jim, hey, Jim, that's the best answer you can have. You always agree, right?
That always helps. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so listen, we've got just about I don't know, maybe about 18 minutes left here, and so I want to get to this because it is February, and any good marriage usually centers around romance and sex and those kind of things, and so we want to make this a family show, somewhat. So we don't need to get into too much detail, but I do want you guys to talk about how you keep romance, because let's face it, although the marriage relationship should not be centered around sexual intimacy, but there's other things that you can be intimate with as a couple other than sex. However, romance is really an important part of the marriage relationship. So over the years, and I know, Jan, you mentioned like with kids, so for kids, a lot of times married couples find it hard to be romantic or to be together intimately or those kind of things. So over the years, how have you maybe creatively said, what, this is what we have to do. Sometimes we have to be intentional. Sometimes we have to do things this way. And then can you just talk too about the importance of intimacy being more than just sexual? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, I think that the thing that's kind of neat in marriage, and maybe this happens as you're married a long time, I used to get all upset when Valentine's Day would come or birthdays would come, and I'd have this idea in my head what I wanted it to be, and then it wouldn't be that way, and I would feel let down. And so I think 35 years in, I finally got smart, and I told Jim what I needed, what I wanted. And that was like a light bulb moment for me. Like, tell your person that you love what you need. Don't assume that they are a mind reader and they know what you want. That's true for everything though. That goes from, do you need flowers? Would you like a card? Do you want to spend time together taking a walk? What are your needs elsewhere, intimately? You've got to talk about it. And if you don't, you have no one but yourself to blame if you don't get your needs met. And I think that is a real taboo in our culture, in the sense of women especially. I don't think they feel it's their right to ask for what they want or for what they need. And I think that it's definitely true in the marriage situation. So I think we need to be more open and forthcoming. And that doesn't take the mystique away. I think if anything, just because something isn't understood by your partner doesn't mean that they don't understand you. They can't possibly know what it is you want unless you tell them. And that was a real light bulb moment for me. Like, oh, it's not that he doesn't know what I need. He doesn't know because I haven't told him. He can't know it through, reading my mind waves. We have such artificial ideas about what relationships should be rather than based on reality. We base them on our fantasies or our understanding of what romance is, based on kids books or fairy tales or happily ever after. You got to work at it. You got to talk about it. And I remember I used to say, when I would ask Jim something, his first thing he'd always say was no. So I learned years ago to say, okay, I don't want an answer right now, but I want you to think about it. And then if I would pose it to him that way, it was invariably, sure, I'll do that, or I'll be happy to. And it was just, I think, giving him the freedom to make the choice for himself. He wasn't feeling like I was, being this demanding, naggy wife. So I don't know. Those are just the little things you learn along the way. And it seems so obvious, but no one tells us this stuff, I think.
Yeah.
My answer, Brian, is I probably could have done a better job at the romantic side, I guess. But one of the things, you all love your kids, but sometimes you need to get away from your kids too. You need a break. And I think, especially at our anniversary coming up, it's in September, and Jan will always remind me, what are we going to do this year, but we went on some really nice things together. We went one year to Letchworth State Park, and we stayed in this really nice inn. When we were married like 40 years, we went on an Alaskan trip. There was another time we stayed in a cabin, just the two of us, and had like a cookout and got to enjoy each other and stuff, and you need to have that alone time too, I think, sometimes, and just enjoy each other, or maybe get to know each other again, I guess, is a thing,
Yeah. And,
so that's important.
And what you're talking about is so important, because we are living in a sex-saturated culture, and everything always seems to be about if we're talking romance, or we're talking love, or we're talking a cracker commercial on TV, it usually has to do, they're selling it with sex. And so the idea that a marriage relationship can have intimacy apart from sex, although sex is a part of the marriage relationship, that you can have intimacy, and that intimacy can lead actually to better sexual relationship between a husband and wife if you learn how to have intimacy outside of the bedroom as well. That's really important, right?
One of the nicest things Jim does is initiate Scrabble. That is the nicest thing that he does, because he knows I really enjoy playing it. I'm not so sure he likes it, but he does that for me, and we really enjoy it. And it's something we didn't do maybe when the kids were little, but over the years we always played board games together, just the two of us. If we'd go on a vacation or we'd go away for the weekend, we'd take backgammon or whatever, or cheesy or cribbage or whatever it was, or cards, and we always did that together. And for a long time we did with other friends, we'd play cards with them. And I don't know, you're right, you got to have fun together. And as you get older, your needs are going to change. Your focus on your spouse is going to change. Time is going to be of a different element. And then, you add in the mix, now you're a grandparent. And I love to see Jim hanging out with our grandkids. To me, that's so exciting and so wonderful to see that he's an involved grandpa. That's huge. We aren't the people we were that we were married to 40 years ago. Hopefully we're better people and more, multi-layered.
Right. So let me ask you this then. What do you say to the couple, the husband and the wife? Because we know that in a society today, like I just mentioned, it's just saturated with sexual innuendos, and people think that that's what it means to be romantic or to be intimate. So what do you say to the couple, the younger couple, where the husband, he feels like, okay, the wife, she never wants to be sexual because that's what intimacy is. And then the wife feels like, the husband, that's all he wants. And then what happens is, then anytime the husband says, hey, let's play some Scrabble, she just automatically thinks the only reason he wants to play Scrabble is because he thinks, X, Y, and Z. What would you tell a young couple? Like, how do they navigate through that? Because that could be a lot of conflict for them back and forth. And how does the wife start to go, well, at least he wants to play Scrabble, so even though the motive may be different, is that still a good thing? Like, how would you help them navigate through that?
What do you think, Jim?
Yeah, if the guy's too aggressive all the time, and that's all he, wants is sex or something all the time, that's not a good thing either. I think, it's got to be a mutual thing, and you both have to be in the mood, I guess. And, there's days where most couples work now, and you come home from work and you're tired and you're just maybe not in the mood that night, So, I mean, you both have to, want it, I guess. And if the one person's being too aggressive, that's not a good thing either. You know, it's again the thing you got to talk about and discuss, be on the same page, like we've been saying.
And it's okay to say, my needs aren't being met. What can we do about it? And make it a we, not you kind of thing. What can we do to make this a better situation? Because a lot of what you're describing are just symptoms of deeper issues, that you're not respecting the other person. You're not taking time for the other person. You know, it's only going to be as good as the relationship, as much as you are willing to put into it. And sometimes there's years in your marriage where the one person's giving a whole lot more, just by virtue of, if you're the mom and you're running the kids around and you're feeling put out because your husband's coming home and expecting dinner on the table after you've worked an 8-hour day. Yeah, you gotta work through those landmines, but there's always a solution. And if you need help, you gotta ask. And another thing women maybe need to do is lower their expectations. They don't need to run themselves ragged and work all these crazy hours and have a perfect house, because there's not going to be anything left at the end of the day for their spouse. So maybe something has to go, and reprioritize your life. What's really the most important thing? It might not be what you think it is.
Yeah, that's Jan we didn't talk about this, but I always worked, and Jan did work when we first got married, but then when we had children, she stayed home and raised the kids, and that's not an easy job to do either. But I think those are years that go by so fast, and it's so important, and if possible, I know a lot of couples can't do that now, but if possible, it's a great thing to do.
And maybe reprioritize, do you need the latest and greatest technology? Do you need your kid in every dance class? Do they need to have every, latest toy or, video game? And the answer is a big resounding no. I mean, if you're always scrapping at each other because somebody is feeling left out or their needs aren't being met, but you're working yourself ragged to pay for all this stuff that you think you need, maybe you need to rethink it a little bit. Because I'll tell you, when our kids were little, we didn't have a lot of stuff. But we had our kids and their education, and being read to, and time with them was really important for me, that I was there for them. And I think that paid big dividends later on, because I could talk to my kids and speak into their lives, because we made time for them. But we went without certain things that we decided we didn't need necessarily, like a new car every couple of years. And we had friends that were buying new cars and taking expensive trips and really stressing their relationships. And maybe all that stuff isn't the most important thing at this time for your family. And only you can know what that is as a couple.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's great. And it comes down something I've learned over the years, and I think one of the things that marriage has taught me is how selfish I can be as an individual. And when it comes down to it, the Bible describes sin at its foundation is selfishness. And it's the idea of learning how to, as a husband, play Scrabble and realize that that's all you're going to do is play Scrabble, and that's okay. And
one other thing also, too.
Yeah, go ahead, Jim. Go ahead.
You're never going to win, too. I've never won.
I know. Yeah. Hey, we play Boggle at home. I don't know if you're familiar with the game Boggle. Yeah. I get like 6 words, and April has like a list of like 20 words, and it's not even worth it to play. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But I think what we've been talking about here is the husband and the wife learning that it's okay sometimes not to get your needs met, but if they're not being met, then talk about it and discuss it and see how you can do that. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Right.
Yep.
All right.
And again, using the we language. Yeah. I love, we matter enough that we need to take time and put some energy into this and some effort.
Yeah.
And be willing to, consider that maybe you could be doing more than you're doing. That's okay too, to change it up a little.
Right. Definitely. All right. So we got just like a few minutes left. So here's what I want to do. I want to give you the floor. And if there's anything you wanted to say to young couples, any encouragement, any thoughts, I'm just going to let you do that in the last couple minutes, and then we're going to get out of here for today.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Well, I think, as I said, I think, the most important thing is to
Um, what I was just thinking is, we all have different talents. Maybe this isn't exactly what you're thinking of, Brian, but um, like Jan likes to cook. I really am not a cook, and so I do the dishes. So you really need to share in your chores together. And like you said,
Mm-hmm.
um, so one person's not feeling so overwhelmed and doing everything and getting over stressed and everything else. So, we're all good at certain things and we all enjoy doing certain things. So, we should do the things we enjoy doing because we're going to do a better job at it too.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, that's another, I guess that's part of getting to know each other and doing what works for your family too.
Jan?
Oh, you done? Yeah, and I was just going to say, Jim's right. You don't have to spend a lot of money to show the other person that you care about them or that they're important to you. Um, and if you can step it up a little, maybe that's what is required right now. If you're not getting along, take an honest look at yourself and say, maybe I need to be doing a little bit more than I'm doing because things just don't feel right. And thank your spouse. I mean, how often do we pray for our spouses? Do we thank God for what we have rather than what we don't have? And do we, um, thank your spouse for what they do, or the things that they do that maybe go unnoticed, or they think that they're just doing, and you don't even notice or care that they do them. But it's important to be told you're appreciated too. Everybody likes to feel appreciated.
Yeah, you're right. Well, I'll tell you what. I really appreciate having you guys on, and I want to have you back to talk finances and to talk maybe more marriage. But we're kind of out of time, so I'm glad that you were able to come on, and I think that people are going to be at least strengthened and encouraged through what we've talked about today.
Well, I hope so too. And as far as to young couples, I know there's a lot of stresses in this world today that maybe we didn't experience. I think they're just repackaged and maybe look a little bit different. But if you're committed to another person, you can make anything work out. But you have to be willing to, you know, put the work in. Put your shoulder down and work through the problem. And there is help, just like you said. Get some help. Talk to friends. Be open and honest about your relationship. And things that are hidden are only going to get worse. I think getting things out and talk about it is your best bet.
And find a good church like Northeast Community, and Brian is a pastor.
That's right.
Yeah. Hey, Jim, maybe you should go play some Scrabble tonight, Jim. I don't know.
I think so.
You're not getting anywhere with me here. All right. Well, hey, it was good. It was good.
Yeah,
It was good talking
you.
with you guys. All right, and we will see you next time. So thanks.
Okay.
All right.
Hey there, thanks for joining us today. Just a couple quick things before we let you go for good today. I just wanted to apologize for some of the technical difficulties we ran into today. This is one of the first time I think we have shown a pre-recorded video. So for some reason, if you were on Facebook watching this, go back because you missed about the first 20 minutes because for some weird reason, the platform had kind of been new or changed, or I did something wrong. Something happened. Let's just face it. I'll just take full responsibility. We won't put anything on Facebook because we know if I do say anything bad about Facebook, well, we all just know what's going to happen. So it was my fault, and I forgot to put the hit live button, and so you missed about the first 20 minutes. So you might want to go back and rewatch that. The other thing is, too, I want to encourage you to respond to us, send us an email or comment down below if you not only liked this marriage information, because we want to do some more marriage shows and talk to Jim and Jan some more because they are just a great couple. I love those two, and they have so much wisdom and so many good things to talk about and to tell us about. And then the other thing is, just one more quick reminder, if you like this video today and you're on Facebook or YouTube, make sure you like it and make sure you share it on Facebook. And if you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. And listen, you guys have a great week, and we'll see you next week.